Hello chess friends and welcome to your of Chess channel and welcome back to our Come to Chess Games Played by Computer series. So in this course we're following some great games that have been played by top engines, and today I've decided to show a really wild attacking game played by two top engines, Igel versus Stockfish 15 in the beautiful English opening. And I think the English opening is really complicated to play for both sides, not because of this early tactical possibility. So you're not, I think, lose in an English opening in the early stage of the game. I think the problem about the English opening is that it can really transpose into many things. You can really spread the opening into some other possibilities of some other openings. For instance, if you start to play the English opening, maybe then you have a transposition of the Queen's Gambit Decline. You can get maybe the Queen's Gambit Decline structure out of the English opening, and you know the Queen's Gambit Decline is complicated enough for itself. So as I said, you can get maybe some symmetrical ideas of the English opening. You have this reverse Sicilian ideas of the English opening. You have really this fianchetto variations. You have also some possibilities of the Catalan, so maybe you get the Catalan opening out of the English opening. So it's, as I said, really complicated to play. I think you have to know really many things about chess in order to play the English opening in a decent way. So let's see now what happened. The cool part about this game is that we'll see now Stockfish playing with the black pieces here. The English opening will have this reverse Sicilian setup, in my opinion, really a game worth to study, and of course add maybe into your database of some good games about the English opening. So let's see now what happened. Here Igel opened with the move c4, Stockfish played e5, the reverse Sicilian setup. We have knight to c3, knight to f6, knight to f3, and now after move knight to c6 we have reached now the 4 knights variation of the English opening. So g3, we have now the fianchetto variation, bishop to c5, getting this very powerful control of the d4 square. That's, I think, also very important thing to say about openings. Whenever you play an opening, I think in the beginning it's very important for you to focus on one square of your opponent, target that square and occupy that square, have a good control of that square, and then of course you can make a transposition. You have to then maybe change the direction of deck. You have to maybe some other attacking opportunity, but see, in the beginning Stockfish simply had a control of the d4 square immediately. So we have now bishop to g2, d6, we have d3, and now h6. This was the beautiful prophylactic move here by Stockfish 15, because if you castle now too early, then you could get this idea: bishop to g5, h6, bishop to f6, queen to f6, and now with knight to d5, I think black is okay. Black is perfectly fine here, but I don't like the fact that you don't have any control of the d5 square. Now we'll eventually play knight to d5, get an extra tempo against the queen, and then maybe again with e3, d4, this would be an opportunity maybe to break and enter here in the center of the board. So okay, as I said, it's not losing if you allow this, but I think the game could be complicated here for black. So in the continuation after d3, as we said, h6 was played by Stockfish 15. So kingside castling, a6, very important move to get some breathing spaces for the bishop, because in the near future a3 b4 could happen, or e3 d4 to kick away this bishop from this active square. Now Stockfish is saying, okay, I'll at least keep my bishop on this long diagonal, but I'll not allow some extra time, some extra tempi with some attacks against the bishop. So here a3, we have kingside castling. Now e3, bishop to a7. You see, and now if you don't play here, for instance, this bishop to a7, if you try some ideas of rook to e8, then you get probably d4, and from this point on white could have a dominant position in the center of the board. So that's why after move e3, bishop to a7, we have b4, and now bishop to e6 here by Stockfish 15. So Stockfish is preparing now maybe even the move d5 as a breakthrough idea to get a clarification now in the center of the board. We have now bishop to b2, and now queen to d7. So this move is perfectly fine. I think we're trying to try this idea, bishop to h3, get rid of this annoying bishop on g2, because the main strength about this structure is of course the light square diagonal of this light square bishop. Then you see, with the support of this pawn storm here on the queen side, white could have very fun. So far Stockfish 15 is trying to get rid of this most important piece of white, tries to play now the move bishop to h3. So we have now queen to b3, knight to e7, and that's the move I really liked. Again, like in the previous move with bishop to a7, Stockfish does again the same thing. Plays now knight to e2, pardon me, knight to e7. It seems like a passive move, it seems like a strange move, but at least you're not allowing your opponent to get extra tempo, extra attacks against this knight. If the knight stays on c6, then it's always an object of the pawn storm attack with b5, c5. You see, with the move bishop to a7 and knight to e7, Stockfish says, okay, you can push now the pawns, but at least you're not attacking anything. I'll have time to maybe reroute my knight here on this square, and then it's of course very, very useful here, maybe with some attacking opportunities on f4, maybe on h4 also in the continuation of the game. So as I said, beautiful how Stockfish is not allowing any aggressive moves against this minor pieces. So here we have rook from f to d1, trying to place the rook, of course, where already the queen is. If something gets cleared on the d file, if the pawn structure gets cleared, then of course the queen could be endangered by this beautiful rook's activity. If you try here d4 immediately, maybe to break in the center of the board, I think this would be very risky here for white, because then we can take e takes d4. Okay, e takes d4. Now you have this very advanced pawns here. You have a possibility to break through again in the center of the board, but now actually with c6 black can solve every positional problem. So in my opinion, this attack of white doesn't make sense. It's not aggressive enough. And now also with b5 here white could be in trouble, because the c4 is, I think, a vulnerable square, especially because of this activity of the bishop against the queen. White needs to be careful. So you could maybe try rook to e1, trying to make further progress. Now we just play maybe rook to e8, rook to d1, and now with b5, as we said, things get very, very messy. You have to now, I think, play ideas of d5, breaking in the center of the board. But now after c takes d5, okay, c takes d5, you have your fun, you get an extra tempo against the bishop. But now with bishop to g4, bishop to f5, wherever you want to place your bishop, I think here black should be slightly better. Look at this, these pieces are perfectly fine, the knights are centralized here, the bishop still is very active on a7. I think in the near future we can expect moves like a rook to c8, including the last piece into the game, and black has a solid setup. I'm not saying again this is winning for black or something, nothing special is going on, but here at least I think black has equalized the game in an early stage of the game, which is perfectly fine, of course, when you play the game with the black pieces. So as we said, nothing special with this breakthrough ideas with the move d4. So that's why rook from f to d1, we have bishop to g4, rook to d2 gets all of this tactical possibilities of this long diagonal, and now bishop to h3. Here Stockfish is finally saying, I had it enough, I don't want to tolerate your light square bishop anymore. If you retreat here with the bishop to h1, then I think in the near future bishop queen to f5 could be also an opportunity, attacking a little bit here this loose knight on f3, bishop to g4, maybe again even some opportunities are maybe possible with h5 h4 in the near future, maybe to undermine a little bit this pawn chain that white is here in front of the king. Especially I like really this long diagonal of the dark square bishop, although so far white is many pawns in front of the king, but I think in the near future this structure could be broken, even with some ideas of f4 f5 f4. So far, as we said, good setup here by Stockfish. So after move bishop to h3, here c5 was played by Igel, which is perfectly fine, trying again to undermine this small pawn chain that black has built here. If you take, of course, this is not good. E5 is weak. Also, if we clear here the situation, the b file will be open. So far this is not working here for black. So that's why rook from a to d8, protecting now the d6 weakness here. The d6 is, I think, now the main vulnerable square of black, so that's why Stockfish supports this further and tries to play now much for free with the queen. Now the rook is protecting the d6. Now we're trying, as we said, to include the queen maybe here into the attack. So in the continuation, rook to c1, knight to g6, rerouting the knight on a better square. The knight on e7 wasn't good. Now, as we said, it's controlling these two squares. Maybe there are also some attacking opportunities. So knight to e4, knight to h7, and that's what I really liked again by Stockfish. Stockfish did not simplify the game by allowing his opponent to trade off the pieces. So with knight to h7, okay, maybe it's again not the optimal square for the knight, but at least we can further make progress with king to h8. And I think also f5 in the near future is an opportunity. Of course, you have to be careful to not lose your connection between the queen and the bishop. But f5 as a main strategic goal, I think, is perfectly fine. And as we said, f5, f4, and then when the f file clears, then I think with this rook activity, with this bishop's activity, you could be destroyed around 1 square. So in the continuation, we have bishop to h3, we have queen to h3, c takes d6, c takes d6, and now we have queen to d5, attacking now the d6 weakness. So we have now rook to d7, knight takes d6 is so far not working because you get knight to f6, and now you have to step back from the defense of the knight, and the knight is lost, so it's game over. So this is not working. So after move rook to d7, rook to c2 was played by Igel, and now knight to e7, attacking the queen, queen to b3, and now bishop to b8. And this was, in my opinion, one of the most important moves here by Stockfish 15. It seems like a slightly passive move because you're placing your bishop here where already many of your pawns are. So basically in the beginning of the sequence, this bishop is blocked out by its own pawn structure, but actually these are mobile pawns. So now in the near future we can expect moves like d5, e4. When that happens, then this bishop gets liberated on this diagonal. Maybe even, as we said, king to h8, f5 are opportunities. So this pawn structure is still so mobile enough that we can include actually the bishop in a beautiful way into the game. And there is also a beautiful defensive idea about this move, bishop to b8. It's not allowing here this rook to come on the 7th rank, because Stockfish has lost a little bit the rook connection on the 8th rank, or maybe on the 7th rank. So the rooks are dislocated, disconnected. Now with the move knight to e7 and bishop to b8, Stockfish is not allowing any of these rooks to come on c7 or maybe here to c8. So far also good defensive play, but also these moves have always a double function by Stockfish. Not that they're only used as defensive pieces, they're also used in order to make further progress, as we said, with f5, maybe even with the move d5. So here in continuation, a4, b5, a takes b5, a takes b5, knight to c3, trying maybe to occupy this weak square on d5, and now queen to f5, attacking now simply the knight. You have to make now several choices. The problem I think here is the weak d3 square and also the king. So now again many things can be played. If you play of course king to g2, if you protect your knight on f3, then we get this one, queen to d3, then you can maybe attack the queen. But now with queen to g6, I think everything is solved. You can maybe try the move e4. Now okay, black is left now with the backport pawn on d6, but now with knight to f6 we can make further progress. The e4 is still weak, and now after move rook to e1 we can play simply rook to b7, protecting now our pawn. And then in the near future I think also d5 could be perfectly fine, maybe as an idea to break through, and then put the move e4. So this is not working. So after move queen to f5, knight to e1 was played. This was of course the only move that prolongs the game for white. Knight to d3, knight is protecting now the pawn on d3. But now with the move d5, Stockfish is now making really cool progress. As we said, that was our goal. Now we don't have any more the d6 weakness, and now the chances here maybe to break and enter with the move e4. So here in the continuation we have knight takes b5, and Stockfish sacrificed the pawn, but it's a beautiful pawn sacrifice because okay, so far you took a pawn, but notice that now the knight is deflected. The knight is simply too far away from the action, and okay, you have a passer, but I'm not sure if this passer is dangerous enough, sort of. It is even supported by the queen here, but I think it's a long run to rely on this pawn's activity. You will eventually play b5, b6, b7, but the bishop is controlling the b8 square, and meanwhile I think, look at this, many pieces are already there. Many pieces are dancing in front of white's king. You don't have any more defenders, any more minor piece defenders in front of the king, so the only piece that's defending the king is now the knight. And now, as we said, we can even play h4, h5, h4, g4, g5, g4. So many attacking opportunities are here for black, although white gained the pawn, but I don't think that this pawn is enough here in order to make progress. So in the continuation, knight to g5. Look at this, how Stockfish now is getting the pieces into the game. We have now knight to c3. The knight gets now into the defense again. Stockfish, pardon me, Igel is trying now to reroute the knight on a more defensive square. And now after move rook after d8, so far the d5 is protected. We have now b5 and now e4. This is a very important move. This move liberates now the bishop's activity and creates now also a beautiful space advantage on the 4th rank. And now the idea is clear. We want to play something like queen to h3, knight to f3, knight to f3, e takes f3. When the pawn is here with the support of the queen, we're trying, of course, to deliver a beautiful checkmate on g2. So this is now the main attacking goal. This can be defended because here knight to e2 was played by Igel. Even if you play here knight to d2, I've sorted out these two possibilities. So here knight to e2 is a problem because you get knight to h3 and then the pawn on f2 is hanging. But let's see now what happens if you play knight to d1. If you are protecting your f2 square, then the problems, as we said, queen to h3. Now you can play something like bishop to a3, or I don't know, maybe some other possibilities. Even I think the only defensive move here is to play the move f4, at least getting the rook into the defense, but this is not working. We'll simply play e takes f3, so then eventually bishop to g3 is also an opportunity, so this is not working. So that's why I see knight to d2, knight to d1, pardon me, it's not working. As we said, knight to f3, main tactical goal, knight takes f3, e takes f3, and now there's no counterplay against this potential checkmate on g2. So really wild stuff. So that's why after move e4 here, Igel tried knight to e2, and this move is okay because you are getting maybe the knight here on f4. You have another defensive piece, but now you have lost the connection between the rook and the pawn, and now knight to h3 is here the possibility. We have king to g2, and now again you have two choices. You can play queen to f2 or knight to f2. The problem about, of course, the move queen to f2 is that you lose the knight on h3. Maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for black. You can choose now knight to f2 or queen to f2, and try to see sort of a tactical sequence. So take your time. It's really a beautiful tactical sequence that Stockfish will play now. Okay, if you play knight to f2, this wouldn't be the actual correct move. Then we have here this one, knight to d4, comes with the counterattack against the queen. You can play queen to h3, a check, then the knight is taken. But now with queen to h2 and knight to g2 here, you will eventually maybe lose the battle here. But I think with king to f1, everything can be solved. Queen to h3 is going to happen. Okay, still probably black is much better because black will include the rook into the game, but many pieces are already defending black's king, so maybe black can hope for a draw. But actually, after move king to g2 here, queen to f2 was played by Stockfish. Okay, again, Stockfish lost now the knight on h3, but actually now the king is in danger. Then now the game becomes really a beautiful king hunt because Stockfish has now this opportunity. We have queen to f1. Now you have to cover with knight to g2. If you don't play the game like this, if you play, of course, something like king to h4, then you get g5, you have this one, and now with queen to h3, you get a beautiful checkmate. So this is not working. So you have to cover now with the knight, but now with queen to f5, you have to again now cover with the pawn. Again, if you try some ideas of king to h4, then you get knight to g6, even a checkmate immediately. So you have to cover now in this particular position with the move g4, but now queen to f3, really wild stuff. And now after move knight to g3, that was the only move. Now comes a beautiful move h5. So you cannot take out with the knight, of course. If you take now the pawn like Igel did, then we have this one, bishop to g3, h takes g3, and now this move knight to f5 is coming very beautifully into the game. The pawn on g3 is now unprotected. Okay, Stockfish is lost now on minor piece, but has now really beautiful pattern, has now beautiful checkmate attack here against white king. So you have to play king to h2, getting out of this mess here. We have d4, really beautiful move. Notice that now d4 is actually opening now a little bit here the third rank. There is now also this tactical possibility on the third rank, because if you play something like this, queen to g3 is going to happen, and you can never actually take out the pawn on e4 because you lose the queen here on b3. Notice that the queens are lined up on the same rank. That is also a very important tactical moment that we have to recognize in this game, because in the continuation of the game we have to be careful because, as we said, the queen is a little bit loose here on the square. So in the continuation, after move d4, Igel tried bishop to d4, getting a new defender into the game, but it's simply not working. We have queen takes g3. After move king to g1, now comes again a beautiful move, knight to h6. So this is a really nice maneuver of the knight, because we're trying now to play knight to g4 and then queen to h2, or queen to f2 if possible, of course, but so far the rook is covering, of course, this very important square. Now when we deliver a check, then the tactical goal is something like rook to d5 or rook to d6, whatever is the possibility, but we want to maybe include one of these rooks on the f file, and then with the support of the knight, this is a beautiful again attack by the fish. So here now there are several choices what white can do in the game. Igel tried king to f2, trying to get out of this mess, trying to search for root maybe with the king to escape maybe here on this side of the board. But there are now different opportunities. For instance, if you try bishop to e5, if you just maybe try to sacrifice one piece back, then bishop to e5, queen to c3 leads now again maybe into a simplified line for white, but again here black should be much better. We can take another pawn. You just maybe try to get another passer here on the d5, but now again the same goal will happen, knight to g4, again with some ideas of queen to h2. You could also play here instead of this move king to f1, you can play of course d takes e4, but as we said, the queens are lined up on the third rank. Now we can even play a rook to d4. You cannot take, of course, because you lose the queen. You could also try maybe some ideas of rook to f2, getting the rook a little bit closer to the king, but actually again it's not working. Knight to g4, you can maybe again include this other rook into the game, queen to h2. Now we play another check. Now we can play this one, and this is not defendable anymore. There is not a good way. If you play something like rook to f1, we'll simply take out the knight here, so it's game over. If you play somewhere with the knight, then we'll simply take out the rook, so white cannot defend this position for sure. So really wild stuff. So after move knight to h6, here what Igel tried was the move king to f1. So we have seen bishop to e5 or rook to f2 are simply not working. So king to f1, we have knight to g4 anyway. We want still to play this annoying attack against the king. Knight to e1, we have rook takes d4. Now we have e takes d4, but now with the rook to d6, this is now not defendable anymore here for white. There is no counterplay against rook to f6. Even if you try one check, it doesn't matter. We'll just play king to h7. No more checks are possible, and still we can play rook to f6. Even if you try this one, then queen to f2 is going to happen. So you cannot basically cover both of these ranks. You cannot cover the 6th rank but also the 2nd rank, so it's simply not working. So in the continuation, as we said, after move rook to d6, the rook to f6 move is now the serious threat. We have rook to a1, rook to f6, king to e2, rook to f2, and we'll still have this beautiful king hunt. We have king to d1, knight to e3. The pieces are playing in a beautiful harmony. In the continuation, we have king to c1, and now comes knight takes c2. The problem about this moves is that again you lose the game because knight takes c2 is not a possibility. It seemed to me in the beginning maybe white has defended here, but actually look at this. After e takes d3, this pawn is now very important because now the knight has to move. Whenever you play with the knight to e3, or maybe if you play knight to b4, it doesn't matter. Then you have this one, you get checkmated. You have to play something like king to b1. Now we play just one check, and you have to just include the queen in the defense, but it doesn't matter, it's a checkmate anyway. So really wild stuff. So after move knight to c2, you have to take now with the queen. That's now the most important thing here to notice. But now after a couple of checks, we have this one, king to c1, Stockfish grabs now the queen. We have king to c2, queen to b5, so Stockfish is grabbing now all of the material, all of the pawns. Has now a situation where we have still this pattern, so it's now completely winning game here for Stockfish. So king to c3, e3, proceeding here, knight to c2, and after queen to c6 in this position, Igel resigns. So wherever you step back, we'll simply just push the pawns here further. We can even try some checks, whatever you want to play. It's not defendable anymore here for white. So amazing game, I think it was, by Stockfish 15. Beautiful ideas of the English opening, how Stockfish made progress in about this light, where sacrifice, then a piece, decoy decoyed the king a little bit towards the center, made them progress with some wild ideas, and then eventually played a really beautiful king hunt, really mortal stuff played by the fish. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. Really interesting ideas of the English opening. If you want to see more about the English, here's our English opening playlist with some also cool games played by white but also played by black. And if you want to see also some other great games played by Stockfish but also by some other top engines, here's our common chess games played by computers playlist. You can also check it out, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.